Hi, good afternoon, one and all of you, and thank you very much for joining today's webinar on decoding the updates in direct taxes and provident fund for businesses. Friday afternoon it is not easy, particularly when we have lunch and we are all at home. I think I have quite a difficult task to take ahead, but I'm sure right, we'll try to keep the session as lively as possible and as um, as informative as possible also to all of you. First of all, you've all taken out your time, and thank you for that. And without any further ado,
Muted.
share my
Unmuted. Muted. Unmuted. Muted.
I hope you are able to see my screen, and it's quite long that we've been to offices or we've met each other. So I'm also sharing my webinar, I mean webcam. So it's nice to meet you online. With that, let me just complete one last setting so that we can go ahead. Yes. Wonderful. So I hope all of you are able to follow. So if you're able to listen to me, I think there is nothing much that you have to do. All of you, we are requesting you to be in broadcast mode, which is kindly mute. We have a question answer session at the end of the program, so we'll definitely be able to take your questions through chat, and those specific people who want to talk to us, most welcome during the Q&A session. So with that, let's move on. Yes, so just a very brief introduction about relativity. We are into payroll, taxation, compliance, and accounting. We've been in the market for 12 years now, and we try to solve complex day-to-day issues with small businesses and medium businesses and enterprises with payroll, taxation, compliance, accounting, and through leverage of a lot of technology and tools. Through our solutions, our client experience, employee experience, and better operational efficiency as well. The good thing is most of you who have joined today's webinar, many of you know us very well. So it's always nice to see you all. So today's, we are going to talk about today's business. We are going to talk about what are the revised tax rates for TCS and TDS. We are also going to talk about the tax treatment for nil deduction certificates or lower deduction certificates. We'll also speak about the scheme that was earlier announced by the by the government in terms of the provident fund being completely borne by the government for certain category of companies. And we are also going to talk about the recent notification that came up on the 13th of May, where they have announced lower PF rates. We'll also spend a little more time on anticipated challenges in payroll due to these changes. You all are payroll professionals, tax professionals, finance professionals, and I encourage you to share and to discuss your views and your feedback as well during the Q&A session, and we'll go through some key questions as well. So with that, let's move on to part number 1, where we are going to talk about reduction in tax rates. So we all know that this is only going to be applicable for non-salaried individuals. About 25% has been reduced from the existing tax rate, applicable from the 14th of May to the 31st of March 2021. There was an anticipation from the industry that there would be either a complete deferment of TDS for about 3 months, or probably about 50% deferment of TDS for about 3 to 6 months. But what the government has done, they have deferred 25%, though it's a little lower. 25% is lower. Still, the advantage is that they have given it for an extended period of time. It is for almost about 10 months. So that's a good sign. And so there is an understanding that is this going to reduce my tax liability? As we all know, absolutely not. This is only to improve cash flow, short-term cash flows. There is not going to be any reduction in tax liability per se. So when we talk about reduction in tax rates, this is what we can see, that as for each section of the Income Tax Act, the existing tax rates have been reduced by 25%, and the revised tax rates are applicable from the 14th of May. Now, what is important is this is also available in public forum, but yet I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. We'll spend a lot of time on what is more important moving forward. So as you can see, 193, 194, A, C, D, everything is reduced by 25%. We would also see 194G, H, and everything is also reduced by 25%. The revised rates are available in the rightmost column. We'll also be sharing this particular PPT to all of you. So we'll be happy to share this PPT, and at that point in time you can go through the rates as well. This is about 194J, K, LA, LB. Certain new sections were introduced this financial year. So even for that, we can see 192 was introduced in this financial year. So we can see that TDS on e-commerce participants is also reduced. But of course, that will come into effect only from the 1st of October 2020. With that, I think let's spend some time here about discussion points. So I have a couple of thoughts that I certainly wish to share, and this is what I'm going to talk to you about. So the question is, what about no PAN cases or cases where the assessee is a non-resident? So CBDT recently issued a clarification that no PAN cases shall be or other than Indian residents, that there is not going to be any change in the tax rates for those. Currently, for no PAN cases, we have about 20% as the TDS rate, and for other than Indian residents, it could be either individuals or companies. We still have the same rates that are applicable to all of them as well. The next point that we should be discussing is, does this only apply for TDS deducted by companies? So in the last financial year, the scope of TDS has also been widened to individuals making certain type of payments. Like for example, any individual making 50 lakhs and above, to contractors also required to deduct TDS. So the point that we would like to clarify is, this applies for anyone who's liable to deduct TDS as per the TDS rules. So whether we are an individual, whether we are a company, we are a LLP, partnership, proprietorship, it does not affect. Whatever would be the revised tax rates will be applicable for each and every one of us. So we had this question come up this morning. What about the invoices received on or before 13/05/2020, which they have been received before 13/05/2020, but they will be paid, or they haven't been paid until 13/05/2020. So we'll have to use the natural system of TDS rules here. So if we look at by the rule, TDS liability is invoked when a payment, TDS liability is invoked at the time of when it becomes payable or when it is paid, whichever is earlier. So let's say you have an invoice which is dated, for example, 25th of April 2020, which you haven't paid until now. So as per the TDS rules, the liability to deduct and pay the TDS has already invoked on the date of receipt of the invoice. So for those kind of cases, of course, we cannot we cannot apply these potential tax rates. But for all invoices that we may receive after the 30th of May 2020, we should be able to apply these tax rates. So this was one of the clarifications that came today morning, and I thought it was interesting to share with all of you. The other item is how to handle lower deduction certificates or nil deduction certificate cases. So we know that in cases where the LDC or NDC rates are lower, we will have to consider the LDC or NDC cases, the best judgment is to exercise whatever is beneficial to an individual. So let's say if the individual comes under, if the SSC comes under 194J, where the TDS deduction percentage is about 10, and he has a lower deduction certificate for 8%. So if you do not submit the lower deduction certificate to your TDS deductor, automatically 7.5% will be preferentially applied. But in case you submit a lower deduction certificate, then the 8% will be applied. So here that we have this benefit, we can use whatever is beneficial to us. But ultimately, we'll have to use the LDC or nil deduction certificate cases. The other items are so all this while we spoke about we being a TDS payer, TDS deductor. What if we are a TDS recipient, right? So in terms of TDS being a TDS recipient, which I'm sure in some way or the other, all of you will be a TDS recipient, whether you are an individual or a business. In that case, the lower TDS rates help only in better cash flows. So it does not again reduce any of our tax liability. It only helps in better cash flows, and actual tax liability is not reduced. And the best thing is to compute and discharge our advance tax liability to avoid interest. So this is something that we should do. Of course, many times, given the economic scenario, we may not have a huge profit expectation because of the difficult economic scenario. We may not have a higher outgo of advance tax, but yet it makes sense for us to at least calculate whatever advance tax is liable as per the advance tax dates, and appropriately offset any advance tax liability if there is any, right? So that's a suggestion that we should see. Let's look quickly again look at TCS, tax collection at source. So we know TCS is not applicable to everyone. It's only applicable to certain industries and very specialized cases. So you can see on your screen what are the rates of TCS. So in the as per the Income Tax Act, we have 2.6B of 1, which talks about TCS, and other two sections which talk about TCS. You are able to see on the screen what is the reduced TCS rate. Anyway, I'm not going to spend a lot of time because we'll share this PPT with you after the program is over. And grant of license, toll plaza, sale of motor vehicles, sale of any other goods. So we all know that sale of motor vehicles and all of that is applicable for individuals as well as for companies equally. Whoever buys a motor vehicle costing 10 lakhs and above has to deduct TCS of 10%. But now it will be for the point of 0.75%. So with that, let's jump into part 3, which talks about treatment of lower deduction or nil deduction certificate. So see, there is a lot of clarity that is already there about lower deduction certificate and nil deduction certificate. The government already came out with a clarification on the 30th of March. But still, that we are going to talk about, the direct taxes combined. I thought it would be good to include all of these in our discussion points. So LDC, NDC is extensively used, right, to apply either a tax rate lower than the published rate, of course, upon approval from the competent authority. So the governing sections for LDC and nil deduction certificates are 195, 197, and 206C. So these are the three sections under which LDCs are awarded. So on 31st of March, CBDT came out with a specific order saying that giving three categories of LDC cases, and we'll look at these categories one by one. So let's say if a particular assessee already has an LDC or a nil deduction certificate, however it is, for financial year 1920, and he or the company, right, has also applied LDC or NDC for the financial year 2021. In that case, the existing certificate will continue to be applicable until 30th of June 2020. In case where they have a LDC for the previous financial year, but they had not applied as on 31st of March 2020, they were advised to apply immediately, so that their certificate for FY 1920 will again continue to be applicable until 30th of June 2020. So you all know that LDCs have to be, the number and all of that has to be included in QETDS filings. Otherwise, then it becomes a short payment of tax. So this part is very important. So whoever whether it is you who is having an LDC certificate, just make sure that you have this applied if you don't have applied until now. Now there are cases where the assessee does not have an LDC for financial year 1920, but for the current financial year they like to seek an LDC or a nil deduction certificate. In that case, the CBDT instructed that the applications will be accepted through email to the assessing officer, or a specific officer was assigned in ward, in the TDS ward, and he or she would process applications. Of course, what I understand is this has been quite slow. We've not got very positive approvals or responses from the competent authority, but yet we have to apply through the email, and only after we receive the approval can we submit it to the deductors for LDC for availing the preferential tax rates. Now, having said that, a couple of discussion points here, which I thought are prevalent, is so this question about what would be the threshold limit for the LDC and lower deduction certificate and nil deduction certificate, right? So what the CBDT says is the certificate will be extended until 30th of June 2020, but there was no clarity about whether the threshold limit will continue to be the same or the threshold limit will be revised to a new number based on the application 2021. So in this scenario, right, a lot of chartered accountants, a lot of online forums have concluded. Primarily, there are two schools of thoughts. One school of thought is that certificate validity has got extended and not the threshold limit. And the second school of thought is the FY 2021's application value should be considered, is what is the second school of thought, because obviously we do not get a lower deduction certificate for a higher value than necessary. So that was the second school of thought, but at this point in time we don't have much clarity. So hence the leeway of using what is beneficial to an assessee, can be used. So that's something that we can continue to use until we have clarity in this matter. The other point is practically, now that there have been lower tax rates, TDS rates have been lower. So will there be difficulty in getting a lower deduction certificate or a nil deduction certificate in 2021, especially for the new assessees? We are talking specially for the new assessees. So in my opinion, yes, it will become difficult to get lower deduction certificates in the current financial year, particularly if the assessee is new. because that is the whole reason why they have reduced the tax rate by 25%. CBDT knows that as soon as we all open up, there will be a lot of applications because of the economic situation, which will only increase the administrative burden. So to reduce the administrative burden, the CBDT themselves have also announced a lower tax rate. So having said that, I believe it is not going to be very easy to get LDCs or nil deduction certificates for a new assessee for FY 2021. There may be a lot of discouragement from the field officers also, though the law may not prevent the CBDT from providing us a lower deduction certificate, but we can see a lot of discouragement from the field officers, and they either stalling our application or asking us to take advantage already of the lower tax rates. I think that is one of those two things going to happen. Now let's come to part 4, where we talk about the Provident Fund under the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, which is where the government is taking up about 12% of the employee share plus 12% of the employer's share. Employee and employer share is completely borne by the government. So this was announced a couple of weeks ago. Right. So initially it was announced for the first 3 months, and on the 13th of March, 13th of May, it has been extended for a further period of 3 months. So which means any company which satisfies two primary conditions. Condition number 1 is, if we have an employee size of 100, and condition number 2 is if we have 90% of them drawing 15,000 of monthly wages or less. If we satisfy both of these conditions, the government will make the payment of 12 plus 12 percent. First, for the first 3 months it was announced, and now it has been extended for further 3 months, so a total of 6 months. There are some lot of reports about how many people it is going to benefit. A lot of companies do not come under this particular scheme, or a lot of companies are not eligible because of the very tight very tight conditions that has been put. But whatever it is what it is. This is what is PMGKP scheme, and let's look at the field difficulties that PMGKP faced. This is what we spoke. So I'm going to skip the slide, and let's go directly to the eligibility. So that is only for the eligibility of the employer. So this one is the eligibility of the employer, my dear friends. Two conditions. Condition number 1 is our organization should not have more than 100 employees, and condition number 2 is 90% of them should not be earning more than 15,000 of monthly wages. So this is the employer's eligibility. Now there is also an employee's eligibility, which was not very very well advertised or very well carried forward in the media.
Hello.
Sorry. Yes. Sorry about that. Yeah. So coming back to this, so there were certain eligibility requirements for the employee also. Let's go through them one by one. First and foremost is the gross of that particular employee should be. So here the monthly wages actually mean gross wages, not the basic wages. It actually means the gross wages. So the gross wage should be less than 15,000 rupees. This is the first condition. And second condition is apart from the UAN of the employee being seeded with Aadhaar, they also mandated that for the last 6 months, right, this 15,000 average monthly wage should have been there. So this reduced significantly a lot of employees. Of course, it is also necessary to make sure that people don't misuse it by declaring to the Provident Fund organization that all these employees are drawing less than 15,000. So that's the reason. But a lot of employees got ineligible because of this. And if an employee is already eligible under the two other schemes, the PMPRY and PMRPY, where the government is contributing on behalf of the employee, both of these schemes are about that. Then the PMGKP, that is 12 plus 12% of contribution from the government, will not be allowed. So this was another eligibility criteria for the employee. And finally, we have employees who earn more than 15,000 in eligible establishments, will not come under the scheme, and employer has to make the payment for that. So this was all, incorporated in the ECR filing. So as soon as we generate the ECR, the EPFO itself would check all of these eligibility requirements and give us the final value of what we have to pay. A lot of organizations, that I have spoken to have told that about 30-40% of the employees were not eligible for this, and ultimately they were only able to use this for about 40 or 50% of their whole employee strength. So that was the feedback that we got, and I thought it was prudent to share with all of you. The other thing moving on is about the recent on the 30th of May, the recent announcement about reduction in the PF contribution. So let's look at that. Statutory PF contribution for both the employer as well as the employee has been reduced for a period of 3 months, right? From 12% to 10%. Let's also understand that there are certain specified industries for whom this 10% is already in force, and now this has been extended to everybody else. So let's say we have 12% deducted from the employee and 12% equal contribution by the employer. Now for the next 3 months we can take advantage of the lower rate at 10% and 10%. So I was actually trying to get the clip of the speech of the finance minister. Unfortunately, I understand that though you may be able to see the clip, but you may not be able to hear her words. So this is what she said. With this lower percentage, the employee will get more salary in his hand. The net take home will increase, as well as the employer will reduce his compliance burden. So which means the introduction of the scheme is to benefit both the employer and the employee, and not the employee alone. Now this will affect us in a certain type of payroll environment. We will talk about it in the subsequent slides. So this eligibility criteria is for all employees and employers, irrespective of the turnover, irrespective of anything. There is no limitation, just that we should not be covered under the PM Garib Kalyan package, PM Garib Kalyan Yojana. We should not be covered under that. So as long as we are not covered under that, we'll be eligible for this lower TDS, lower PF contribution of 10% from employee as well as the employer. With that, a couple of discussion points here is, let's look at a CTC based payroll where where we talk about the CTC to an employee, and whatever within that CTC is his money, right? So that is where I was telling to you earlier what was the announcement of the finance minister and what was the objective. The objective was to reduce or maybe in some manner ease the burden for both the employee as well as the employer. So I think looking at that stand, we will have to see how best we can make use of this facility that has been provided. We'll also talk about certain anticipated changes in payroll, challenges in payroll in the next part. So let's look at some of them, and of course we'll open up for questions where we all can discuss further. So first and foremost is, we'll have to undertake a big settings change in payroll. We'll have to feed in the revised the PF rate of 10% in the payroll software for the first 3 months, and then again we will have to change it to 12% back to 12% in August 2020. Now, while this is certain softwares allow doing this, certain softwares don't allow doing this. One of the challenges that we just came to know in the morning is when we change the rate at of 10%, what is happening is the future declaration is also getting calculated at 10% only. The future contribution of the employee for the rest of the financial year. Right, so this is used for income tax calculations. So instead of considering for May, June, and July 10%, and from August back to 12%, in many softwares, what is happening is that it is calculating at 10% from the employer and 10% from the employee side for the whole of the financial year. Now, this may have a small impact in taxes, because we will have to run like that for the next 3 months, and in August, we'll have to redo the change to 12%, and it will recalculate the taxes again. So that's a challenge that we anticipate. Just to keep you aware of what is happening. Now, there are certain impacts on tax and take home. So there is an increase in tax deduction. Because what happens is those people who are on the borderline, right? Like for example, who are on uh, 5 lakh 1,000, 5 lakh 2,000, 5 lakh 3,000. So they may come under this tax bracket, and that may adversely affect the employee also. So that's impact that we see, and of course the 2% that we are giving to the employee, he has to bear tax at his tax. So even that is not free. I mean, he has to bear that gets added to the total income. That 2% gets added to the total income, and tax rates as applicable to the employee will be applicable. So that's also a challenge. Now here, the other challenge is, as we saw earlier, in CTC based payroll, right? So there is a legal tussle here in companies, with the companies who have a CTC based payroll, because when we talk about CTC based payroll, our offer letters usually uh, contain the total compensation values, and do not go on the percentage of what is the PF deduction or PT deduction. I mean, percentage basis. We only declare the total values. So unless and until there are legal words which allows you to adjust with the with changing compliance laws, it may be a little legal tussle to do what is right for your organization. So that's something which we have to look into for CTC based payroll companies. Now, with that, friends, of course, we've briefly covered about TDS, TCS. We've also covered about the first provident fund scheme of the government taking up the whole of 24%, and the second provident fund scheme where the government would not take up anything, but reduction of 10% is available, or is provided. And with that, let's open up for questions, and we'll spend a couple of minutes answering questions that you guys have, and we'll take it forward from there. So you have these chat boxes. You can start you can start typing your questions in the chat boxes, and we can take them one by one. I also have my extended team who have also joined this webinar. So certain questions I would also request them to take it up and answer appropriately. So here I have one question I can see. Suhas has asked, is 10% mandatory? So Yeah, as Arun has said, right, there is no guideline given on mandatory, but I think the principle that we will have to follow here is that there is no option for a specific set of employees or anything. If you decide to do a 10% contribution, it is going to be across the board for all employees. That there's no option for each employee. What is going to be there. So Yogesh has a question. Reduced rate of PDF is applicable from May or June? Yeah. So yesterday I had asked my team to actually visit the PF office and ask them how is it going to happen. And one of the uh, assistant provident fund commissioners have confirmed that it is applicable from May, June, and July for these 3 months. For the month of May, June, and July, this is a very very early news that we got yesterday late evening, late afternoon. But there is still no notification or anything to substantiate that it is going to start in May. But in all anticipation, it seems that they are going to put this into effect from May onwards. Um, Nagendra has asked, CTC based compensation, the saving to employer should be given to the employee as a special allowance. Am I right? Yeah, so the idea is, let's say if you're going to, instead of deducting 12% from the employee's share, you're only going to deduct 10%. So the remaining 2% you have to actually not deduct at all. That's the whole idea behind this exercise, Nagendra. Hope I have answered your question. Reducing the TDS rates is not backed by notification. So again, Nagendra has asked this question also. Nagendra, we are expecting TDS notifications to this effect. We don't anticipate any challenges in terms of whether any adjustments or any changes will be made. The finance minister was quite vocal about her approach that all TDS and TCS rates applicable for non-salaried class will stand reduced by 25%. And in the press release, provided by the Press Information Bureau, has also confirmed that notifications will come subsequently. So we don't anticipate any challenges there. What will happen to employers 2%? Devi has asked an interesting question. What will happen to employers 2%? Should we pay to employees as it is a part of CTC? Yes, so Devi, here there are two types of compensations, right? One is the CTC based compensation and the other one is the gross based compensation. So in your particular company, if you are using a gross based compensation, compensation method to process your payrolls, then there is no need for you to repay this 2% of the employer's share back to the employee. But let's say if you are on a CTC based compensation and your offer letter does not have the legal language for these kind of statutory adjustments, then it's a legal tussle. As I told you earlier, it's a bit of a delicate situation that you would be in, because your offer letter would talk about the whole compensation, which means you should give this money to the employee. But the whole objective behind the government of India's announcement is for both the employer as well as the employee to benefit. It was not only for the employee to benefit. So that is something, if you guys get a chance, please go to YouTube and you can look at that particular words that our finance minister has used during her speech. So it is very clear that the government wants the benefit to go to both the employee as well as the employer, for both of them. So solution for CTC based companies. So Nagraj, solution to CTC based companies, if you have the legal language in your offer letter, go ahead and keep that 2% with you. It will reduce your compliance burden. But if you don't have that 2% legal language, it's not a high risk scenario. It's still a low risk scenario, and I'm sure with proper and a proactive explanation, even your employees can understand what your intentions are. So next is Viveka Shenoy has asked, is it confirmed that the lower deduction is effective from May month's payroll? I was reading an article in some newspaper that it was saying that it was from June month payroll. So yeah, Viveka, again, the finance minister has not vocally said May, but if you look at the history, right? If you look at from the beginning of this COVID situation, all of them have been effective immediately. It was never effective after 15 days or after 20 days or after 1 month. They were all effective immediately. So going by that stand, it seems that it will be effective from May. And even our local inquiries at the local Provident Fund office with the Assistant Provident Fund Commissioner also revealed that we should anticipate that it should be applicable from May onwards. If a supplier asks a full TDS deduction instead of reduced rate, can we do it? So Sohail is asking whether we can reduce a higher rate. I mean, we can deduct TDS at full rates. Radha, why don't you answer this question? Can we deduct rates more than the prescribed TDS rates? Is that possible? Radha, why don't you answer that?
Hi everyone. But I mean, I'm not very sure about this part, because if we are going to deduct at the actual rate, not sure how we can take it forward in the TDS returns, because it is a standard rates, right, in the filing. So if we are able to, I think we should do it at the reduced rate, not at the actual rate.
So Sohail, I hope that answers your question. It is best if you do it at the revised reduced rates to reduce complications and all of that stuff. The next question.
We are not very sure about the filing part, right? Because currently it is released only for the deduction rate, so it's better to deduct at the reduced rate.
Right. Thanks for that. There is another question. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. Anna Karina has asked, if the invoice is received after 14th May, but the services happened before that date, whether the new TDS applicable to this invoice or not. So it is a very low risk situation, Anna Karina, because the invoice itself you have received after 13th of May 2020. So you can go ahead and book it on the revised or the lower TDS rates. Anna Karina, I hope that answers your question. Mukesh has asked, if PF is a retirement corpus for employees, is it not harsh to reduce employer and employee contribution by 4% for 3 months, i.e. 12% loss to employee retiral corpus? Yes, it is, Mukesh. What you say is right, but given that India is predominantly MSME driven market, right? 80% of Indian companies are micro, small, and medium enterprises. So that is the categorization, MSME. And given the economic situation, the challenging cash flows that it has caused, I think the government says that, okay, let's all share the burden together. I think that's where they come to. Okay. Next question is, for CTC based payroll, do you advise to take legal opinion on 2% of employer contribution? So Simon, you know what the legal opinion is going to be, right? Because because you have promised them a certain compensation number, and the offer letter does not have wordings for adjustment to changing statutory laws. So if that is the case, then definitely the legal opinion will also support the providing 2% to your employees. The employer's 2% also to go to your employees. So it's a you'll have to weigh the risk situation here. If you feel that a simple explanation to your employees through an email and intimating that people should share the burden equally is sent, something positive may come up from there. Balasubramaniam asks, reduced PF contribution is applicable to voluntary contribution also. So no, Bala, there is nothing about the voluntary PF contribution. So let's say if if the employee has decided to contribute 10% VPF apart from the 12% EPF, then the revised contribution will be 10% of EPF and 10% of the VPF. So the VPF is not changing at all. Just for all of your knowledge. That was though a good question. Thanks for asking. Helen has asked, is there any extension applicable in PF payment for the month of April 2020 as we got for March 2020? So PF last month notoriously released a circular only at the last moment, that is on the 15th. But given that until now no circular has been released, it is fair to say that no extension either for PF or for ESI is applicable. So that's the information as far as what we have now. Next is, if employee asks to deduct 12% instead of 10%, I think is that possible? So Sohail, I think you have to take a stand in totality, right? So of course not everybody is going to be happy with this situation of reducing the employees PF contribution. So whatever stand the employer takes, that will be applicable to all the employees. And also there may be I'm speculating, but there may be something in the ECR itself which will not allow you to calculate at 12% because the government has mandated 10%. So even the ECR may come up with only a 10% slab, right? So it's best if you stick to 10%. Debrata has asked, in case of EPFO, if the employee will not come under both the schemes, both the conditions, whether employer will have to pay and deduct at 10%. So Debrata, there is this scheme where the government is taking the whole of 24% of the employer as well as the employee share. We know that is only applicable for for those two condition fulfilling employer. So for the rest, everybody, it is this 10 plus 10. There is no change there. So Subaya has asked, can we continue PF deduction at 12%? Will it impact any violation of law? So Subaya, the press release does not mention that it is mandatory to deduct at 10%. But so much of clarity we should only expect from a follow-up legal notification from the EPFO. So then in that case, then we'll have to wait until the EPFO notifies as a gazetted notification or as a circular, whatever the case may be, and then clarity may be obtained. Next question is, if we still have the option to deduct 12%, I hope it is not mandatory to incorporate 10%. Seems so, because there is no word saying mandatory. So seems so. Can employer take a call of contributing 12% towards PF? Is it mandatory to restrict 10%? I think I think it's the same question that we're trying to ask. Yes, PF related question. Total 6 months start from March 2020 and 10% is applicable from 3 months. So the 6 months is not for this 10% scheme. The 6 months is for the PM Garib Yojana scheme, right, where the government is contributing the whole of 24%. This is only for 3 months, most probably starting from the month of May 2020. Mohan Sundaram, do we have any geo which talks about reduction in PF percentage? So there is no geo, there is only a press release of the honorable finance minister. A government order or a notification is yet to be received. So what if appointment does not have that particular statutory clause? Can we take consent from employee and then go ahead? So this question, I think a good question, Johar Sons. Yes. So in case such a clause is not available in your offer letter or on your appointment order, you can seek consent from your employees and go ahead. That is allowed in terms of law. Please, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, but I'm Wadu Khan says in employer share 12%. How to change EPS 8.33 and 3.67. So what is going to happen is the diversion to employees pension scheme is not going to change at all. That is going to remain at 8.33%, right? So what is effectively going to happen is that 1.67% of diversion is only going to go to the employees provident fund. EPS always will get the 8.33% no matter what. Okay, Nagraj asks, how is 10% PF segregated for pension? I think we spoke about that. So even when you have a 10% PF payment, 8.33% has to go to EPS and the remaining 1.67% has to go to EPF. Yes, next question is by Mr. Nageshwar Rao. Since taxability is on gross salary, how does lower PF deduction lead to bringing a person within the tax bracket? I know there will be lower ATC, but employee can always make good by deploying this money in investment specified under ATC. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So what we meant to mention is that for those who are at the border, for whom PF acts as a savior, for them this would be a difficult challenge. And of course, as you rightly say, they can always deploy or they can increase their investments in ATC and still get to that 1.5 lakhs. Sure.
Hello.
Yes. Do you want to speak, Ganesh? Okay, so the next question is about if employee wants to continue his contribution at 12%, do we need to do so? So right now there is less of a mandate, but it seems that the ECRs because of the automatic computation may be configured to 12%. The only answer is will come when we receive a official notification. But currently it seems that you have to take a stand as an employer whether you are going to take this 10 plus 10 or you have to you will remain at 12 plus 12. So that's something that you have to decide as an employer. Can I get brief explanation about TDS percentage deduction limit in 194J professional or technical fees? Seems that there is a different TDS rate. Radha, can you look at this particular question and probably add your views?
Yeah, I mean, Padmajyoti will answer for this question.
Yes, please. The next.
Padmajyoti, can you answer this question?
I think she's having some trouble with her audio. So, Helen, we will, we have an expert Padmajyoti who deals with all of this. So once she's ready, I'm sure she'll be able to answer or take your question. Until then, until Padmajyoti is getting ready, let's just continue. Selvaraj, lower TDS. Padmajyoti, go on.
Yeah. Actually, as per the latest Finance Act, there are two sections which is available in 194G. Earlier, it is only 10% for both professional services and technical fees. But as per this latest amendment of 2020 Finance Act, for technical fees, only 2% of TDS has to be deducted. Technical fees will contain the services like managerial activities, consultancy services, and some technical services which is taken for the software maintenance, server maintenance, like that.
Wonderful. Thanks about that. And just going to the next question, lower TDS deduction for FY 1920. Can it be continued to deduct at same lower rate till 30th June? Yes. That is right, Selvaraj. You can continue. If company is paying half of the salary for next 1 or 2 months, the PF contribution of 10% shall be calculated from actual basic or earned basic. So Shanmuga Priya, the PF contribution is always on that particular month's PF wage. It is always on that particular month's PF wage. It is not on the theoretical salary. Whatever you earn in that particular month, PF contribution is on the PF wage. Again, it is not on the basic. Let me remind you that it is not on the basic. It is on the PF wage. It is not on the basic. Yes. Next is how to process payment instead of online ECR. So Arun, do we have another option to do the payment without ECR? I don't think so, right? Can you answer this question, Arun?
Yeah, it is not possible unless we get the proper approval from.
Right. So it is not possible without the ECR.
Yes.
Okay. Shaktivel has asked if the service invoice dated April 20 was received now, what will be the applicable TDS rate? So since the service invoice is dated April 2020, of course you have to use those particular dates. Helen Triba. If a company has below 70 employees in which 25% of them earn more than 20,000, are we eligible for PMGKY? You are not eligible for PMGKY because, so here the question is not about 20,000. How many of you are eligible, are earning less than 15,000? So if you have 90% earning less than 15,000, you can go with PMGKY. Otherwise, you always have the option to go with 10% PF deduction for the next 3 months. Hema, PF change is applicable to all private sectors, or is there any classification there? Hema, it's applicable to all private sectors, no classification there. Reduced PF percentage has nothing connected to the clause of 90% earning 15,000 or less. Yes, that particular scheme is different for those people for whom this 100 employees and 90% earning less than 15,000 is applicable, will not come under the 10% reduced PF category. Right. With that, the next question is, by when can we expect the detailed notification from EPFO? Viveka, very difficult, but maybe in week, maybe in 10 days time, we should be expecting. Is there any changes in TDS deduction percentage for director remuneration? So for the director's remuneration, it has been reduced, right? So director's remuneration is a professional fee. So professional fee earlier was 10% and now it is 7.5%. That's how it is. A lot of you guys have said thank you to you too. Yes, and we'll continue to take questions, but for the sake of people who are there, would you like to share any best practice that you're trying to bring into your organization, or something that none of us have discussed, but you know, probably you can unmute yourself, state your name and speak. It would certainly help everyone. Okay, until then, if we are deducting PF on actual basic, i.e. basic more than the limit of 15,000, can we deduct PF at a lower rate on the same actual basic, or should we restrict it to 50? Sorry, what? If we are deducting PF on actual basic, um, Arun, can you take this question of Ashok? There is a question from Ashok. Can you take that up, please?
Actually, Ashok's question is private to you, I believe, because we are not able to view.
Okay, so I'll read it out. If we are deducting PF on actual basic, i.e. basic more than the limit of 15,000, can we deduct PF at lower rate on the same actual basic, or should we restrict it to the basic 15,000? So I think I got.
Yeah, we can deduct that.
Yeah, you can. Arun, go ahead.
See, if the statutory limit is above 15, we can still go ahead on
Arun, we were not able to hear you.
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yeah, still they can do it, because if the statutory limit is above 15, they can still deduct the 10%.
They can still deduct the 10% on the actual basic itself, right? Yes.
Yes, if
Yeah.
it
So Ashok,
doesn't cross, doesn't come below.
right. Ashok, I hope we were able to answer your question. And friends, thank you very much, all of you, for participating. It was very nice to host all of you, and we hope sincerely that from the 17th, certain restrictions that we currently have are taken off, and we can get back to our normal work life. Thank you once again for joining, and if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out. And thank you once again. Be safe, all of you, and thanks for joining. Bye bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.